Hey everybody, this is Dak Tribal. Going to be doing something a little different. I've never done this kind of thing before, but I figured it would share my thoughts on the state of the game of Dead by Daylight and everything that usually happens. I thought, maybe I should just share what I think as a somewhat of a. I'm not really a beginner anymore, but I'm not a veteran, so I just want to give my 2 cents on everything that's been going on here. Um, a couple days ago, well, I think it was on Tuesday, the Dead by Daylight development team released patch notes that are going to be coming on September the 2nd. And at first, I didn't think too much about it, I looked at it a little deeper, and I realized that this set of no, this next update is not going to be fun for killer players, and they've been on the receiving end of terrible things the last few months. So we're going to go through these, and I'm going to give my honest opinion on each one of them. So the first one is and here's the thing: I don't have access to the public test builds ever, and because I don't have a PC that can do this, so I'm going to just let you all know that I'm a PlayStation user. I also play on Xbox, but I don't have access to the PTB. So I have no way of figuring out if these are really good or really bad. I'm just going what I am hearing. Anyway, here we go. So the new feature, the slugging reduction update. If a survivor is left in the dying state for a total of 90 seconds during a match, they gain the ability to pick themselves up after recovering. Um, Added the option to enable or disable this mechanic in custom games. I don't really care about that. People that run tournaments, personally, I don't care about it. People that run tournaments and play with their friends, yeah, that okay. Note, perks that enable you to recover from the dying state, like Boon Exponential, will continue to function as before without needing to meet this requirement. Also, it says gradually increases crawling speed for survivors who are left in the dying state. Added the ability for survivors to recover while crawling. Recovery now occurs passively with no need to hold a button. So basically, they updated survivor and killer perks to account for these changes. Okay. The dev note. When it comes to slugging, we know that it can be frustrating if you're on the receiving end of it for too long, often or too long, and we also know that sometimes it's a smart move. This updated system acknowledges this, allowing the killer to slug occasionally when they feel like it's the right call, but will eventually kick in and swing in the survivor's favor if slugging is used excessively. A big part of this is also about making the experience of being slugged more pleasant, as much as being slugged can be at least. The recovery changes and crawling speed will give you a bit more agency when down, so you aren't just holding a button and waiting for someone to come save you. Now, my personal opinion, I've only ever been slugged what many people would call hard slugging twice. I've been playing this game since November of 2023, and that's a regular basis. I've only ever been really hard slugged twice. And I've never really complained about it. I mean, when people, because of the way the slugging works, it's a strategy. Killers use it. I've seen people down one survivor, think that another survivor is nearby, and they don't want to get flashlighted or pallet saved, so they go around and put pressure on the survivor that wants to help. And to me, that's viable. That is perfectly fine. Or if you knock down a survivor right next to a generator that's not regressing, you want to hit the gen while you put this person up and go to the hook. Then if the survivors want to save the progress on that gen, they will go and try to fix that gen and then go and save the survivor. It's part of the game, part of the strategy. Unfortunately, a lot of survivor players, especially the very low tier ones, think that any form of leaving you on the ground for any amount of time is slugging and should be seen as a punishment, and killers are punished. But this update, I think, is kind of ruining that. They're basically giving you base kit unbreakable, which gives survivors a talent. I want to put up a screen and say survivors get a free perk. They can now run something else other than unbreakable because of this. The only thing I do like about this update are the gradually crawling space. So basically now they've given you free base kit tenacity. And they were threatening to implement that a while back. Um, when Springtrap was released, they wanted to do a chaos shuffle, and they were gonna. And as much as Survivor mains want to not acknowledge it, this is fact. They wanted to implement it into Chaos Shuffle to test it out, but the backlash to it was so bad that they said, "Okay, we're not going to do that." And that to me just this is probably hopefully the same thing happens here because giving survivors two free perks and not giving the killers anything to as a as a reward, it to me, I do what strategize as slug. If I knock someone down, I go destroy a pallet, kick a gen, make sure nobody is around before I pick that survivor up. That should not I shouldn't be punished for that. And my verdict, this should not even be implemented because survivors have the perks to counter slugging, and I will say it in a second for the tunneling. They have counters to slugging. They just don't want to use it because they want their hands held. I'm sorry if that's going to piss people off. This game, it isn't competitive by nature. It is competitive by nature. The killer wants to win. The survivors want to win. Well, the killer has to do what he or she has to do to win. And to me, slugging is just part of that. I don't go for hard slugging, leaving everybody down to bleed out for 4 minutes, but this this is kind of straddling the line, but they shouldn't get two free perks for it. And on top of the four that they got. So now they got six perks. If this goes through, they will have six perk slots. Anyway, that's my opinion. The slugging update should not even be implemented. All right, now here's the one that I know everybody is rather pissy about. Survivor mains not so much, but killer mains, yeah, this is just bad. Tunneling reduction update. When a survivor is hooked, their hook status is hidden from the killer. When they're unhooked, there is no notification, and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. This is disabled once all generators are completed. There's a problem. When a survivor is hooked, their hook status, which I'm assuming is that little red bar, is hidden. Okay. Whatever. I don't. I just like. Oh, okay. Okay, that person has just entered second stage, so I can continue to go look for somebody. When they're unhooked, there is no notification, and their hook status isn't revealed immediately. That is taking away information for the killer, because it is those of you that watch me when I play, I don't actively tunnel survivors. My general policy, because of the MMR I play at, I always go for the survivor that I see, unless it's a survivor that is very good at looping me, like at Shaq, and I can't catch them for more than 30 seconds, then I go and move on to somebody else. Um, but when somebody gets unhooked, I tend to turn around and go back to the hook, and then I go after the unhooker. And to me, that's a good strategy. I'm not actively tunneling. If the survivor who just got unhooked came at me and body blocked, then sure, I can go after either one. But if the unhooked survivor goes one direction and the unhooker goes the other way, I'm going to go after the unhooker because the unhooked survivor has endurance and has haste. I'm not going to catch him fast enough. To me, it just makes more sense to go after the unhooker. But I need the notification in order to figure that out. Otherwise, I'm better off just camping near proxy camping the hook, which I think right now already I'm not even a third of the way through the patch notes. I honestly think there's going to be more proxy camping going on to make sure that a kill happens. So, anyway, unhooked survivors gain the following effects for a limited time: haste, endurance, and elusive. Wow. No collision with other players, both killer and survivor. Huh. Okay. Okay, well, if I'm going after the unhooker, I guess that wouldn't be that big of a problem. Immunity to killer instinct and seize the killer's orders or a oh my god. Wow, immunity to killer instinct. Well, that means Legion is next to useless. Sees the killer's aura nearby. Wow, now they can see me through objects? Like if I hook somebody in Leary's and I try to, go around to make sure there's nobody around, because I hear somebody now that they can they can run away from me. Wow. Okay. Well, if that's the unhooked survivor, I guess that would help. If as long as it doesn't affect the unhooker, I guess it would be okay. But no killer instinct, that's not putting that, that takes away pressure for characters like Legion. That's not good. That is not good. Legion is in trouble. These effects are lost when the affected survivor performs a conspicuous action. Yeah, well, when you're unhooked, the last thing you want to do is a conspicuous action immediately off the hook. Um, but a lot of survivors tend to heal under the hook, so I really do not know. All these effects, except haste and endurance, are disabled once all generators are completed. Huh. So basically, it's a get out of jail free card there. Wow. Endgame builds are going to be a bitch. Added a unique effect to the killer hook state UI that indicates the last survivor they hooked. Huh. After completing a unique hook, the same survivor is not hooked consecutively. Killers get the following benefits. Okay, let's see what this is. Bonus damage for the next generator kick, basically base kit pop, at least for one gen. Temporary haste status effect, I don't know how that works out. Temporarily reveal survivors, think base kit barbecue and chili, that have less or equal hook states to the hooked survivor. Well, if you don't tend to go after the same person over and over again, I guess that would be okay. These effects are slightly lessened for the Blight, the Dark Lord, the Ghoul, the Hillbilly, and the Nurse due to their high mobility, aka these are the best killers in the frickin' game, and these are the ones that these people tend to use. The Dark Lord, yeah, he's one of my mains, so I guess I am affected by that, but again, I don't actively tunnel survivors out. So, like in 2v8, if anybody ever watches me on 2v8, I do sometimes get messages of people claiming that I tunneled them out of the game when you're facing off against survivors, and in 2v8, the pendulum can swing from a win or a defeat. Um, I tend to just go after the very first survivor I see, but this is only in 2v8 because there's so many people to go around. There's so many targets. Why would you not go after whoever you first see? But, to me, this just does not give enough. There's just not enough benefits for killers yet. These effects are disabled once all generators are completed. Added new effects that desensitize tunneling. Okay, this I want to see this because I don't actively tunnel, so I might be appealing. This might be appealing to me. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. If the survivor that was last hooked is sacrificed or killed, generators cannot be regressed or blocked. Whoa, wait a minute. Whoa, 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 whoa. If a survivor dies before 6 total hook states, all remaining survivors gain a repair speed bonus for the rest of the trial. They're basically adding in the pendulum swinging effect from 2v8, whereas if the killers if at least 3 or 4 survivors are dead in 2v8, or there are like between 2 and 3 survivors are dead in 2v8, the survivors get a repair speed bonus for until they get a gen done or something like that. But but for 4 total hook states, so basically they're telling you have to. From what this is basically telling me is the developers are trying to force killer players to spread out hooks. Spread out hooks is basically when a killer is so good at tracking other survivors and they want to make it fun for other survivors that they will actively go after every survivor individually but non-consecutively. Unfortunately, that style is dead too because it only takes 3 hook states to kill somebody. So you kill one person, you can no longer regress or block generators with anything. That's not fair. That is so not fair. And that I'm not even going to get into the big one. What about killers that have a built-in Mori like Pyramid Head, Pig and her head traps, and Sadako with her condemned. Basically, you play as those killers, you're screwed. That because some survivors are just not smart enough to know the mechanics of the killers they're facing. I've been in position as Pig where I get a Mori kill because somebody's AFK without getting a trap off. They die, and I get one or two hooks before that. Nobody's close to death, but that person dies, and my match is screwed. That's not fair. Like, wow. Added the option to disable these mechanics in custom games. Updated survivor, killer, person, yada yada. There's no secret that tunneling can be seen. This is the devs talking. There is no secret that tunneling can be seen as an efficient way to play for killers. While this can be true, it's also true that the results of this can be frustrating for survivors, leading to trials ending too quickly for some, while leaving others to fend for themselves in a match that is now much more difficult. Also, that is known as a skill issue. The intention here is for both roles to feel the benefits and incentives that come from spreading hook states. On the one end, survivors have better opportunities to evade and reset after unhooks, while also limiting those tough situations, while losing a survivor too quickly causes things to go south quickly and snowball. Yeah, some killers actually need that snowball in order to turn a sure defeat into a win, like the Trapper. On the other end, killers are able to apply more map pressure to push back against efficient teams, covering ground post-hook and strengthening gen regression. I don't know about that last statement. Um, so basically, from that paragraph, basically tells me that the developers are trying to force you, a killer player, how to play the game that they bought. They're trying to force every killer player to spread their hooks out. Not every killer likes to play nice. They don't like to spread out hooks to make sure that survivors can have fun. Because as a killer main myself, I try to worry about my fun. And even though sometimes I play around with survivors, like when they want to boot my suit as Pig, I'll let them go for a little bit and then I'll go after somebody else. That's my fun. But if I feel the need to kill somebody and I want to kill somebody, I will do it. And I shouldn't be punished for some survivors' stupid mistakes and not learning how to loop. Like that, to me, this just pisses me off. And that first paragraph is basically, oh, here you suck as playing survivor and looping and getting around the killer. You get hooked too easily. Well, here we go. We're holding your hand. The killer now has these problems to deal with. While the second is basically saying that they're trying to force you to play a certain way. I don't like that. I don't like being told how to play the game that I bought and that I've been playing for the last nearly 2 years. I don't like being told how to play. I want to play the way I want to play. If I want to play like a scumbag, I'll play like a scumbag. If I want to play like a nice guy, I'll do that. But I don't like being told to do that. My thoughts on this part: the slugging, the anti-slugging, and anti-tunneling thing should not even go through. If the PTB, and I have no power with this. This will have to rely on the people that play the PTB, and hopefully the killer mains get together. This is just not fair for killers. The game was at its most balanced at the end of 2023. When I first got on it, no killer was oppressive, no killer was overbearing, and a survivor, it was always a skill issue with me if I ended up losing. But now killer, it's basically going to be so tough to play as killer. You're not even guaranteed a 4 kill anymore unless you just play like you're playing 4-dimensional chess. When I get home from work, I want to play a killer game and just shut my brain off and hunt down people left and right, because that's what I would do in this situation. But being told how to play it because a certain group of people bitch and moan about skills and perks, the survivors have. That's the thing about this thing that I've been a killer main since last January. Survivors have the perks to counter tunneling and slugging. They just don't use them. They just will not do it because they want the game to hold their hand and have as smooth of a game as possible and an easy victory. While killer players are punished for trying to play the game that has been the same way for 9 years. Now we're being told how to play. This is a show that the does don't listen to the community and they don't play killer at all. I'm saying rant this change should not go through. Slugging maybe adapt it just a little bit, make it 2 minutes instead of a minute and a half, but the tunneling shouldn't be implemented. It's not fair for killer. I can tell you this right now. I'm mostly a survivor player. The elusive status effect added a new status effect that silences grunts of pain and suppresses a survivor aura and pools of blood scratch mark. They basically gave you free iron will and off the record. That's another 2 set of perks. They have 8 perks now. When you like this, see right here, you unhook survivors gain the following effects for a limited time: haste, endurance, and elusive. They gave you 4 extra perks when you get unhooked. What if the survivor hangs around the hook trying to heal themselves? I guess that would turn on the conspicuous action, and then they would lose it. I guess that wouldn't be that big of a deal. But you're basically giving them 4 new perks base kit. That's just crazy. To start, we'll be using this new status effect as part of the tunneling reduction update, but plan to integrate it into relevant existing perks down the road to make the descriptions more streamlined. Arguably, the easiest way to look at this is a survivor version of undetectable, in that when it's active, you're in stealth mode. Uh, you know, you know what other perk can help you too. You want to know what perk they can use? Calm Spirit. Guess what? That works all the time. You're basically giving them Calm Spirit, another perk. So I'm guessing that's 9. The Tomes lore update basically updated the Tomes menu to feature new Tomes accompanying lore alongside each chapter release. New lore is unlocked each week in the active tome. Okay, that's good. I used to like to do the tomes to unlock lore. I like the lore. It's just convoluted. Lore will be back with the 9.2 update. Okay, so you don't need to complete quests in order to unlock lore. Okay, that's fine. All right, I'll be right back. Give me a second. Okay, so back to the notes. Uh, let's see. So yeah, the tomes, they're okay as long as they don't get rid of the old tomes before they I would like to complete the existing tome challenges before they get rid of them. They said they're going to do that, so hopefully that works out. So the killer updates the shape. Replaced Evil Within. Oh, this must be his rework. Replace Evil Within with two modes that can be toggled with a button press. Stalker mode, 4.2 meters per second movement speed, undetectable, and can stalk survivors. Basically, that's tier 1 Evil Within. Pursuer mode, 4.6 meters per second movement speed, 24-meter terror radius, increased vault speed, bonuses to lunge range, break speed, stun recovery, cannot stalk survivors. So I'm guessing this is Evil Within tier 2. Once the stock reader is full, Evil Incarnate mode can be triggered at will, granting the following effects for a limited time. Survivors no longer become exposed. 4.6 meters per second movement, 40-meter terror radius, and increased vault speed. Unlocks Slaughtering Strike ability. Hold the power button to charge this ability, reducing movement speed. Press the attack button while charging to quickly lunge forward. Adjust your angle as you move. The length of the lunge depends on charge time. If a survivor enters the killer's attack range while lunging, they are knocked into the dying state. This ability can also be used to destroy pallets. Unlocks the ability to grab and kill or perform a regular Mori on survivors who would die the next time they are hooked. Okay. Adjusted some of the mechanics of stalking, removed the limited pool of stock points per survivor, reduced stock range to 32 meters, and removed distance modifier. Moving while stalking has increased movement speed, but encourages a reduced stalk rate, and reworked the add-ons. By moving away from linear Evil Within tiers, we wanted to give players more tools they can use to adapt to each trial's unique situations while keeping the core of what makes him the shape. Slaughtering Strike makes for a high-threat offensive attack, offering up an insta-down opportunity with an extended lunge that's particularly effective in loops and for ripping through pallets quickly. Understanding his kit has changed quite a lot. We've done a pass on nearly all his add-ons, reworking many of them to offer more unique effects, in particular for those who prefer his old playstyle. Fragrant Tuft of Hair will change Evil Incarnate to function like old Myers, offering an exposed effect and no slaughtering strike. Stay tuned for patch notes full details these changes. I've been watching the Halloween movies since I was 5 years old. I grew up watching John Carpenter's Halloween. Part 2, 4, 5, 6, H2O, Resurrection, Rob Zombie films, the new trilogy with Jamie Lee Curtis from 2018. And I can tell you this with the utmost level of confidence. Not once does Michael run or lunge a far distance at any of his victims. What I just read does not scream Michael Myers to me. That does not sound like Michael Myers at all. You might as well turn him into Ghostface at this point. Also, they did the whole two modes with a single button press thing back in the day. It was the Doctor. He had one ability where he would use his normal shock attack, and then he would he couldn't attack anybody. You'd have to switch between it. If you wanted to shock people, you had to go to mode B. But if you wanted to attack, you had to be in mode A. I remember those days, and he was not very fun to play because of that. Because the amount of time it took to switch was always a pain. He can dash, and I've seen the video for this. I thought this was just a joke. They basically gave Michael Myers a pig dash attack, and the fact that you can destroy pallets with it. What are they thinking? He doesn't have a frickin' axe. He doesn't have a frickin' hammer. He has a kitchen knife. And you expect me to believe that that can destroy pallets? They were better off adding this kind of thing to a newer killer, to a new killer they're going to introduce down the line. That is ridiculous. So basically, basically, Scratch Mirror Myers is officially dead. He was pretty much on life support when they got rid of the map offerings, and I liked playing as Scratch Mirror Myers. I liked scaring survivors. And this is going to make getting that Evil Within trophy even harder for those who want to get it. I haven't gotten it yet. I want to get it, but I don't want to work. This is just insane. Wow. That is just wow. But I'm not a Michael main, but I did play as him in Scratch Mirror, and I like playing Scratch Mirror. I enjoy playing killers who played Scratch Mirror. Um, like there was a few of them that would just play around. Hey, we're gonna let you live, but I'm gonna scare the crap out of you for clips, and I always loved that. But anyway, let's move on to the clown. Increased activation time of Afterpiece Antidote. Increased how long the Afterpiece tonic's hindered effect lingers after leaving smoke. We've heard your feedback that the clown's easier to activate haste can make instigating and maintaining chases less interactive for survivors. That, coupled with nerfs to his purple bottles, has pushed players towards this frustrating tactic. To make both bottles feel like viable options without being too oppressive, we've adjusted the values of their most impactful qualities to strike a balance between pre 9.1 values and live values. Basically, they reverted the clown after changing him. They basically reverted him back to the way he was before the last update. Way to go, behavior. I played Clown for a few hours after his update to get some challenges done, and I realized that using the purple bottles outside of certain situations was completely pointless. And I can understand it. And my biggest problem with the Afterpiece Antidote was when survivors ran through it, they also got a haste boost, which I thought was not fair, but it was the high risk, high reward of using such a tactic. I always just use the purple bottles because it slowed them down. I think this is a good change because the clown players that love him will love him more now. But I do like that they increased the how long the hindered effect lingers after leaving the purple smoke. That was always my biggest problem because they would always run into the smoke, but by the time I'd get within lunge distance, they would already get back to normal speed. So that's okay. That's okay. The unknown. Increase the additional time added to weakened when injured by UVX projectile. Increase movement speed, recovery after teleporting. Increase camera vertical range. Adjusted several add-ons. The unknown is largely considered to be fun to play as and against, and we want to preserve that while adapting the current state of gameplay. We buffed the UVX slightly, while also taking what we learned from the animatronic to allow for orbitals, improving UVX aiming, and make it even for more fun gameplay. It's also likely no surprise that blurry photos, the most used add-on for the unknown, given the importance of speed recovery, help create an opportunity for more add-on experimentation. We've converted a portion of his add-on into his base kit buff, while also doing a pass on other add-ons that are due for some adjustments. The unknown can be fun to play. I don't really care about him too much. I play the occasional game with him just to mess around. I did like that. I didn't like that when you were aiming the UVX, you could not go way up there. You were only stuck at like this. I always thought that that took the fun out of aiming, kind of like with the Huntress's axes. You know, um, I think that's okay. I mean, I don't play as the unknown very much. He's not one of my mains. So now speaking of mains, the Dark Lord, his vampire form slightly reduced Hellfire cooldown, plus. Increase total Hellfire pillars by 1. Another plus. I've sometimes fallen short depending on situations. Reduce Hellfire charge movement speed. I wonder if yeah, and slightly increase slowdown time after casting Hellfire. Hellfire is one of those things that people don't like to use. They say that it's next to useless. A lot of his higher, more experienced mains will say that Hellfire is worthless. You might as well just use the Wolf. And to me, I like using Hellfire because it can go over certain walls and catch survivors off guard. So there's that. Okay. Wolf form. Increase pounds attack, charge time, increase scent orb spawn time. That's a fair trade. I tend to just use the wolf to travel around the map when I know the bat form should be able to do that, but I like just catching survivors off guard. Bat form, increase movement friction to make flying easier to control. My biggest problem is when you're easily flying against objects. I mean, I know they have to do this, but otherwise you'd just be able to go over certain loops and not, be affected. Um, is when you're in a tight corridor and the bats around you make you bounce off of walls. So, like when you're I'm getting these images of Bedham Preschool in my head. Those houses that have the two floors. I always have trouble going through those hallways because as bat, even after I teleport off of the window, because they're so tight and the bats are so wide. Dev note: Vampire form is slightly less oppressive in short loops where movement and slowdown had less of an impact, and toning down wolf form's mobility, which has been outclassing some dash killers. Well, there's a reason why Dracula is one of the best. On the flip side, you'll find bat form easier to control in tighter spaces. It could use Hellfire slightly more frequently and reach further with it. I personally, as a Dracula main, I like that. That's pretty cool because I like using Hellfire. I've actually gotten more hits with Hellfire than I ever did with Pyramid Head's Punishment of the Damned. So that's a good change. I like that one. This is so far. This is the only change in this dev notes that I don't mind, that I actually am happy with. The Ghoul. When grabbing a survivor on the other side of a vault with Kagune Leap, the survivor is released at the start of the Ghoul's vault instead of at the end. There's no secret that it's been a common pain point for survivors to be locked in place when hit with a Kagune Leap grab attack across a vault. Survivors shouldn't have to wait for the Ghoul to finish their vault before being able to move again, so we've removed this tech. I guess that's what they called the kidnap tech. But considering the fact that survivors can loop a single window 3 times in a chase before it gets blocked, I think that was a good thing, because there are some loops that if you are not up that survivor's ass, the chase can break, like just on the second loop, and the window break. You break chase, you have to start all over again, and then you can further be blocked 3 times. So stopping them short of that, to me, would just be the killer adapting. The Oni, hooking a survivor now spawns more blood orbs. Okay. We understand that with the changes we're making to address slugging, this will impact the Oni slightly. We want to mitigate this by turning hook survivors into a greater source of power gauge buildup. The Oni is rewarded with more quickly snowballing power by hooking. Yeah, but there's a problem with that. You guys are going to take out the hook notification, so they can't tell that they've been unhooked. And I think this is going to encourage proxy camping for Oni players. Perk updates, updated various perks. In addition to general perk balance updates you can expect each release, we've also made a number of adjustments to account for the new systems coming to Dead by Daylight this update, specifically relating to slugging and tunneling. Stay tuned next Tuesday for the PDB live balance preview on Discord, where we'll dig into the details of these perk changes and then follow that up with patch notes where you can find the nitty-gritty numbers. Until next time, the DBD team. Okay, I'm just going to flat out say this. This patch note is going to destroy the game. If they follow through with everything that they said they're going to do, which is probably not going to happen, because I am predicting that the killer side of the community will bitch and moan up a storm with this PTB, and these changes will get gutted, or they won't be implemented at all. They tried implementing this before months ago, and they backed out with a little bit of pushback. Survivors can cry and moan about slugging and tunneling, but they got the tools to handle it already. They don't need any more help. They just don't want to use what they have. They want more hand-holding. To me, the slugging can work. Just make it like 2 minutes instead of a minute and a half for them to get themselves back up, and I think that'll be fine. Make them lose crawling speed, have them move. If they want to move, they can move a little slower. Other than that, I think the slugging is those changes are all right. It's the tunneling part that I don't like, because now you're telling me, the biggest problem I have with it is you're basically telling me how I have to play a game that I bought and have devoted thousands of hours into and had so much fun playing with my friends. Now you're telling me how I should play the game. No. Screw you. I'm not. No, that's not something you should do. So if I were in charge of behavior, Myers really needs you need to rethink who Myers is because he's the original slasher. He's not a dash killer. He is not a lunge killer. He doesn't have an axe. He has a butcher knife. He doesn't need to have the power to break pallets. Um, so get rid of the tunneling. Get rid of most of the anti-slugging. Change Myers again because you obviously don't know who he is. Um, Other than that, also just throwing this in there, rework conviction to where it's not such a pain in the ass. And other than that, that's all I got to say about this patch. I will be streaming later, um, but you know, all in all, the PTB comes out. I'm expecting huge pushback from the killer side of the community, and the behavior will probably implement this stuff, probably on a reduced rate. But honestly, I don't think any of this should go through. The killer changes are fine. Except the Myers basically three things: get rid of the anti-slugging, get rid of the anti-tunnel, and rethink your strategy on Myers because that's not who he is. Those are the big ones. Everything else can stay. So, well, anyway, that's it from me. This has been Dak Tribal 88. Thank you for watching. I'll see you guys after a bit. Peace out.